One of the great endeavors of archaeology is figuring out which events described in the Bible actually happened. We know Jesus lived, had a lot of followers, and that he was crucified. That is all historical fact. It's what happened after he was crucified that depends on your faith. But with the emergence of modern astronomy and evolutionary biology, the book of Genesis hasn't held up as well.
Noah's Ark is one of the most iconic symbols in all of biblical tradition, often stirring visions of a colossal wooden vessel resting high atop Mount Ararat, shrouded in mystery, snow, and legend. For centuries, theologians, explorers, and archaeologists alike have searched for physical traces of this fabled boat, hoping to prove that the Genesis flood narrative is not merely a religious story, but a historical account. While most expeditions have focused on Ararat's peak in eastern Turkey, a team of modern researchers has turned their attention just 15 miles away, to an overlooked site called Durupinar. With the help of cutting-edge scanning technology and compelling new soil analysis, they now believe this may finally be the real resting place of Noah's Ark. The Durupinar Discovery.
Yeah, Durupinar, right, there it is, yeah. I mean, the thing is when you look into the biblical Hebrew for the description of the Ark, it's usually the Ark is built of gopher wood, which in the Hebrew is gimel pei resh, but it had an alternate meaning, gimel pei resh. You can look that up. I've done quite a bit of research on that, and it actually originally meant papyrus reeds.
Researchers in Turkey now claim they found indisputable evidence that the story of Noah's Ark was not a cautionary tale, but a verifiable historical event.
Noah's Ark has been found.
Located near the town of Doğubayazıt in eastern Turkey, the Durupinar site first came to light in 1959 when a Turkish army captain spotted a ship-like formation during an aerial survey. At the time, the unusual shape, 450 feet long and roughly the dimensions of the biblical ark, caught international attention, but was quickly dismissed by geologists as a natural geological formation. Over the decades, interest in the site waxed and waned, driven by amateur adventurers and evangelists who believed its boat-like contour was more than a coincidence. The narrative changed significantly in recent years when archaeologist Andrew Jones and his team, working under the project Noah's Ark Scans, returned to the Durupinar site with a more scientific approach. Since 2019, they have employed non-invasive geophysical tools like ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography to look beneath the surface without disturbing the soil. What they found shocked even seasoned experts: linear patterns and voids consistent with the structure of a large wooden vessel buried beneath the rocky terrain. What's more compelling is the dimensions recorded by Jones's team align closely with the biblical description of the Ark, specifically 300 Royal Egyptian cubits in length. That measurement, equating to roughly 515 feet, is almost exactly what appears at Durupinar. Jones emphasized that the connection to Egyptian cubits is not arbitrary. Quote, "That's what Moses wrote in the book of Genesis," he told Elizabeth Vargas, adding that the Ark's described size wasn't a poetic invention, but possibly a reflection of engineering knowledge passed down through generations. Skeptics have long argued that the formation is simply a quirk of erosion or tectonic activity. However, the team's advanced scans have revealed more than just an outline. They claim to have identified chamber-like spaces up to 30 feet underground. These shapes are inconsistent with natural rock formations and more in line with decayed wooden beams or collapsed internal compartments, consistent with a large man-made object preserved under layers of sediment. Even more promising are the results of preliminary soil tests taken from the site. These tests revealed that samples from within the formation contained nearly 3 times more organic material than samples taken from the surrounding area. Elevated potassium levels and the presence of certain carbon-based compounds suggest that decomposed wood may be present, adding weight to the argument that something built, not just formed, lies beneath the surface. A history of Ark hunting.
These are the timbers of the ship. That's what we're looking at.
It's amazing.
Well, the real hardcore people think they've located Noah's Ark. They've located the remains of it on Mount Ararat. Yeah, there's this bizarre feature in the rocks that they believe is where apparently it matches the Bible's description of the actual size of the Ark.
The search for Noah's Ark is not a modern pursuit. It stretches back thousands of years. Ancient historians like Josephus claimed the Ark came to rest in the mountains of Armenia, and pilgrims throughout antiquity reported relics, beams, or holy artifacts purportedly taken from the ship. Over time, a vast patchwork of traditions grew around the idea that the Ark still exists, hidden from view but within reach. Various locations were proposed as candidates: Mount Judi in the Quran, Mount Massis by Armenians, and ultimately Mount Ararat by the broader Christian tradition. In the 19th and 20th centuries, this fascination evolved into organized expeditions, from Russian soldiers who claimed to spot the Ark in 1917 to astronaut James Irwin, who walked on the moon before climbing Mount Ararat in search of the Ark. Many high-profile figures have staked their reputation on the belief that the vessel is out there. Some explorers even claim to recover fragments of petrified wood, later tested and often dated to hundreds or thousands of years after the biblical flood. Perhaps the most famous of these alleged discoveries occurred in 1955, when French explorer Fernand Navarre brought back a beam of wood from Mount Ararat. His find garnered international headlines, especially after laboratory tests initially estimated the wood to be around 5,000 years old. Later, however, radiocarbon dating placed the timber's age much more recently, suggesting the sample had likely come from a man-made structure, but not one tied to Genesis. The problem with most Ark claims has been twofold: lack of credible scientific data and difficulty replicating findings. Many sites were either inaccessible, politically sensitive, or situated in treacherous terrain. Further complicating matters, multiple hoaxes over the decades, including George Jamal's fabricated discovery aired on national television, have muddied the waters and cast doubt on even legitimate efforts. Despite centuries of failed expeditions and unverified artifacts, public interest in the Ark has never waned. What makes the Durupinar site different is the approach. The current team is leveraging scientific tools, peer-reviewed methodologies, and data transparency to try to overcome the credibility gap that has long plagued Ark archaeology. Science versus skepticism.
Well, first of all, it was noticed because of the ship's shape. And this is the only shape people saw out here in 1959 that got the world interested, because it's in the mountains of Ararat, just like Genesis 8:4 says in the Bible, where Noah's Ark landed. So we're in the right area. We have a shape of a ship. And then when you look at the size of it, it is exactly 300 Royal Egyptian cubits. That's what Moses wrote in the book of Genesis.
Even with compelling scans and soil results, mainstream scientists remain cautious. Many geologists argue that the ship-like shape in Durupinar can be fully explained through natural processes. Erosion, tectonic plate shifts, and mud flows in the region have been known to produce similar patterns in rock. A 1960 expedition led by American geologists concluded the formation was a geologic anomaly with no evidence of artificial construction. These same criticisms have resurfaced in response to recent claims. Experts from the Turkish Geological Institute have reiterated that while the formation is intriguing, more rigorous excavation and peer-reviewed publication is needed before any conclusions can be drawn. Quote, "The burden of proof lies with those making extraordinary claims," one researcher noted in response to the news. Nonetheless, the research team behind Noah's Ark scans believes the difference this time lies in the detail and depth of their data. Their non-destructive imaging reveals consistent voids and stratification patterns which resemble internal structures rather than chaotic geological layering. Andrew Jones maintains that the features they've found can't be explained by natural processes alone. Another line of defense for skeptics is historical continuity. Why would Noah's Ark be preserved at all after a millennia of weather, seismic activity, and decay? But the Durupinar team points to the region's unique geological features, specifically the heavy sedimentation and mineral content, which may have helped preserve wooden structures, much like how volcanic ash preserved Pompeii. Soil analysis plays a key role here. Unlike the surrounding areas, the samples pulled from the Durupinar site show markedly higher levels of organic carbon and potassium. These findings are suggestive of decomposing plant material, possibly ancient timber. While not definitive proof, the anomaly adds another data point supporting the theory that this is more than just rock. Until excavations are officially sanctioned and peer-reviewed studies are published, the Durupinar site will remain controversial. But it is arguably the most scientifically grounded claim yet in the long and winding saga of Ark archaeology. Alternative theories.
There's actually good reasons for believing there was some kind of calamitous flood event that shaped ancient humanity profoundly and left its memory upon these various different cultures. And as long as we're careful not to overstate what the Bible requires people to believe, this story need not be a liability.
One of the greatest obstacles in the search for the Ark is the variety of interpretations surrounding the term Mountains of Ararat. In the Genesis account, The Ark is said to have come to rest in this region, but not necessarily on a single identifiable peak. Ancient texts, including the Book of Jubilees and various Targumim, offer differing views. Some place the landing site on Mount Judy, others on Massis, or even in present-day Iran. This ambiguity has allowed for a wide range of Ark candidates across the Middle East and Eurasia. The modern era introduced a new kind of agenda, media-driven sensationalism. From hoaxed wood beams to forged photographs, the 20th century was filled with tales designed to spark public fascination rather than withstand scientific inquiry. Durupinar represents a convergence of these traditions, the biblical narrative, local lore, and now modern science. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think the formation could really be the resting place of Noah's Ark? Let us know in the comments section below.